welcome to Crashing the Association. It's episode 2 for us. I'm not going to count them out every single time. We're planning on having a new episode every week, and that'll just get a little bit annoying. But Jordan, we're back for episode 2. We are a day and a half, I'll say, into NBA action. We're recording on Wednesday night. The 7 o'clock slate of games are just starting to finish. We're kind of watching the tickers, if you will. The Knicks and Celtics just ended literally just now. Knicks win by 4. Big game for a couple players. Jordan, we'll get into some of these box scores here in just a second, but how you doing, man?
Good, man. Excited to be back, dude. It's I've been looking forward to episode 2 for a while, since literally we stopped recording episode 1. It's good to always, follow hoop season and, write down observations, make predictions and stuff, but having like a tangible way of chatting about it and documenting stuff, always a good time to chat. So excited to be back, man.
Yeah, for sure. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the games tonight. We'll talk a little bit about the games last night. But we really want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about contracts. Some of these young players that signed extensions or didn't sign extensions. Kind of an interesting week in terms of contracts. Also want to talk about some awards predictions. I know it's kind of cheating because we've seen some initial performances from some guys, but want to get those in before we get too deep into the season. And then we'll talk about some things we saw this week that were interesting or intriguing. Let's go around the league real quick, man. So I've got NBA.com pulled up here. First one I'm pulled up, just the Magic and Spurs. They have 7 minutes left. But for me, the most interesting thing is to look at how some of the rookies are playing early on. I know you and I, obviously with crashing the boards, got really into this draft class. And so taking a look here, Jalen Suggs, 7 points. I'm not going to analyze these things, just kind of interested in how these guys are doing. So 7 points for Suggs. Mo Bamba with 14 points, Terrence Ross with 15. Not much going on. Those are two teams that I know you had the Magic a little bit higher up on your list, but the Spurs pretty low.
Yeah, it was definitely a homer pick. I have a good buddy who's a huge Magic fan. If it weren't for me being like somewhat invested with the Magic, they'd be like 28th or something on my list. And then the Spurs, man, just well-coached team, obviously one of the best of all time. But the talent there just isn't great, and they're kind of stuck in limbo, I think, between fully like blowing up and rebuilding versus like trying to remain competitive, make the play-in. So two teams, like it's kind of a fitting season opening matchup for them because I think it's going to be a long season for both.
Yeah. Looking at the Charlotte game now. Okay, so the Hornets won by 1 over the Pacers. This is one I might have to pull up and watch a little bit of at least tomorrow morning. So LaMelo comes out 31 points, 7 assists, 2 steals, 9 rebounds, goes 11 of 23 from the field, 7 of 9 from 3. 77% from beyond the arc for LaMelo Ball. But in terms of rookies, Chris Duarte, have you seen this yet, Jordan?
Yeah. Did he end up with over 20?
He had 27. He went 6 for 9.
Oh my gosh.
Man, all right, let me make a quick note on
he's an old rookie.
I know. Let me make a quick note on my rookie of the year. No, I'm just joking. I'm not going to do that. That's cheating. But big night for Chris Duarte. The Pacers had 3 guys go over 20 points. Pacers only played 8 guys tonight, by the way, which is
early in the season.
Not a lot.
Just already cutting down to that playoff rotation, saying, You know what, we're just gonna, man, I can't believe people were hung up on Chris Duarte being an older rookie and said, I don't get that with players. Like if they can play, take them. Like they're 23, 24, whatever, however old they are, they're still young. And like if you're good, you're good. And Indiana's a team that, they're an odd like situation because they're talented enough to be a playoff team and be consistently good for the next few years. But also I think that's all they can be. It is like consistently good bottom of the East in terms of playoff teams, like either a play-in or an 8 seed. But Duarte, man, he has clear strengths that can help that team. And 27 for his debut, man, that's pretty dang good.
That's not bad. Not bad at all. So I'll flip over to the Bulls game. The Bulls 94-88, kind of a weird game against Detroit. First game for the new look Bulls. About what you would expect, right? Lonzo, 12 points. Let's see, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. No Bulls with over 4 assists. A little bit interesting there. And then so Zach LaVine, of course, 34 points. Bulls as a team shot just 30% from 3, made 7 of 23. But a win's a win. Detroit, not so good, or don't really expect much from them. And I don't think Cade played. I'm looking down here.
Yeah, no, his ankle was still bothering him a little bit.
Right. So Jeremy Grant, 24 points. No one else over 13. So I don't know. I'm not as excited about the Pistons. Where did you have the Pistons? You picked them kind of earlier on, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had them it was pretty early, and it was like, I'm a huge Killian Hayes guy. And did Killian end up scoring in that game?
I already closed it. I already closed it out.
He was like 0 for 6 with 0 points into the fourth quarter. So I'm not sure he ended up scoring any points.
No points. 0 for 6.
Oh man.
5 rebounds, 2 assists, but tough day for the Killian Hayes crowd.
He was just getting cardio out there.
Hey, sometimes that's what you need. I need cardio. That's for sure. Flipping over, Wizards beat the Raptors. The Raptors only scored 83 on their first night out, and no Raptor scored over 12 points, Jordan.
That's not going to win you many games.
No, kind of a rough day. Let's see, as a team, 20% from 3. Scotty Barnes, though, 12 points, 9 rebounds, only 1 assist. Kind of want to see more from him. OG had 11 points, 10 rebounds, and an assist. I mean, not much going on there. Wizards, what you would expect from Brad Beal. He had 23 points. Kuzma with 11 and 15 boards for Kyle Kuzma tonight. So interesting game there. Let's see, what else did we have tonight? The Cavaliers lost to the Grizzlies. Did you see Ja's line?
Yeah, he had 36 last time I checked?
Yeah, so he ended with 37, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, took 29 shots, made 58% of them. So good night for Ja. Hey, honestly, good night for Evan Mobley on his first time out. 17 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 for 2 from beyond the arc, 53% total from the field. You like to see that. How about Jarrett Allen, though? 25 points, not a ton of rebounds, 3 blocks, though, 3 steals, 11 for 11 from the field.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
Man, Jarrett Allen's a good player. He's earned everything he's got so far, man. And Mobley, that's about as good of a debut as you can ask for. Like, he's a guy that you play the long game with if you want him at the 5 eventually. It's going to be weird with Allen there, obviously. Mobley needs to keep adding strength. He's still somewhat raw, but he has the passing chops. I know we talked about when we were scouting him, man, his USC teammates didn't do him any favors. He was dropping dimes. He was facilitating. They just couldn't make shots. So for him to get 6 assists in his NBA debut on a team like Cleveland that has Darius Garland and has Colin Sexton and has Jarrett Allen, has Isaac Okoro, has a bunch of guys, that's a pretty good debut. And it's not like he played all 48 minutes or whatever. He's a guy that they're not going to lean extremely heavily upon, even as a rookie. That's a really impressive debut.
Yeah, absolutely. The Cavs did start with Lauri Markkanen at the 3. So their starting lineup was Sexton, Garland, Allen, and Mobley, and then Markkanen at the 3. So 3 7-footers in the starting lineup. Interesting look for the Cavs. Markkanen, 10 points, 9 rebounds, only 28% from the field. So kind of a rough night out there. Kevin Love only played 17 minutes. I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Kevin Love and his outspokenness about depression and anxiety and just mental health in general. I think it's pretty clear he's getting toward the end of his career, though, right? 1 for 6 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3. 3 rebounds. He did have 4 assists, which you like to see. Ricky Rubio comes in, 12 points, 10 assists off the bench. Darius Garland, 13 and 12, which you like to see. So, okay, I don't want to talk, like, I don't want this podcast to be led by Cavs analysis. That is not how you start episode number 2 of a new NBA podcast. But the Cavs, all right, so we talked about the Cavs a little bit in episode 1 and how I thought that their defense would be pretty nice. I know it's just game 1, a lot to work on, but they gave up 132 to the Grizzlies, who, look, dynamic offense, I get it, but 132, that's the most points given up so far in the NBA tonight. So not a good start for the Cavs defense.
And didn't they have that weird start last year where, like, through 3 weeks they were like the number 2 defense in the league or something? And I was so caught off guard. It's weird. Like, they obviously came back down to earth, but I think the individual pieces, like, obviously with Garland and Sexton in the backcourt, you're never going to be able, like, people make jokes, they're like the great value Dame and CJ. Obviously Dame and CJ not very good defenders, and I think that if they could pan out something like that, I think overall it would be fun. But defensively, especially with Markkanen at the 3, I don't know how that's gonna work really defensively. How many minutes he played there? I think Mobley can cover up for quite a bit. Allen can cover up for quite a bit. So on the interior, I'm not too worried about that. But on the perimeter, you have athletic guys at the 1 and 2 spot that can get in front of players. But if they get beat, or they, can't fight over screens, or they just get lost a little bit, it's going to put more pressure on other guys in that lineup.
For sure, man. And then the bottom half of that box score, decent night for Desmond Bane, 22 points, 50% from the field. Jaren Jackson Jr., who we'll talk about a little bit later. A lot of eyes on him this season. See how his health is. Obviously just got a big contract. 13 points, 25% from the field, but all of his field goals came from beyond the arc, 37% from beyond the arc, 3 of 8. And then 4 free throws, to go along with it, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 blocks though for Jaren. Which you like to see. And we'll talk about him later. Save your words on Jaren Jackson for later on. All right. Philly played New Orleans. Houston, let's check in on our guy, Jalen Green. How did he do tonight? So Jalen Green, only 9 points, 4 of 14 from the field. Tough night for him. Kevin Porter Jr., 11 points. Yeah, not much. I mean, we know the Rockets. We know they're not going to be great.
Yeah, not much happened in that one at all.
No, not really. T-Wolves, 30 points for Cat. Love to see it. 30 and 10. Shot 73% from the field. I love that. I'd love to see a big year for Cat. How about Anthony Edwards? This is a guy that, he's a guy I'm watching a lot this year, man. I really am looking forward to watching him. He led the team in minutes. He had 29 points on 10 of 21 from the field, 6 for 12 from beyond the arc, threw up 12 shots and made 50% of them. That's nice. 6 rebounds, 3 assists. That's a nice start for the second-year guy, Anthony Edwards. And then I just kind of steady as she goes. D-Lo with 22 points, 7 assists. Where'd we pick the T-Wolves? Didn't we talk? Yeah, so they were dead in the middle at 15 in our league pass draft, and a team that both of us kind of agreed maybe a little bit too low on our list.
Yeah, man, they're going to be fun, and especially if Edwards is like 25-ish points per game this season. Like, I'm not expecting him to be an all-star in the Western Conference, but he's going to be a good player, and he's going to be a fun player. He has the frame to be a really good defender. It's going to be mental for him, I think, and consistency for him. I think Cat's going to have a monster season. Not only would I really enjoy that happening because Cat's such a good guy and he's been through so much, but he's so talented, and people forget about that. And like, he's a good passer for a big. His defense has improved so much since he came into the league. He can score as good as any big in the NBA. And then, D'Lo's not a scrub either. Like, D'Lo can play ball, D'Lo can score. Not like a traditional point guard you want running your offense. And that's kind of the interesting part about that team. But I think with all the moving pieces they have and all the dynamic scoring, they don't necessarily need that guy right now. You think like maybe a Ricky Rubio, like if Ant was a little bit taller and maybe just a little bit bigger, you could put Rubio out there with those guys and he could just set the table all day. But I think D'Lo will suffice. I think Ant is a passable passer.
Sure.
And I think that Cat can keep the ball moving. So that team, man, I know we don't want to spend too much time on all these games, but man, there's so much to talk about and so many fun things that happen.
Yeah, man, I was disappointed. I was busy from basically 7 to as soon as we um, started this podcast. So I didn't really get to watch much of any of those games. A lot of good ones. I'll have to catch back up on tomorrow. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit. Well, do you have any thoughts on last night's games? So we had Bucks Nets. Big win for the Bucks. Bucks look really, really good. We had Lakers Warriors. Warriors look really, really good without Klay Thompson. What are some of your takeaways from last evening or yesterday evening?
Yeah, man. I know that I don't want to spoil too much because I know we're going to talk about MVP and stuff like that. I have both of the two out of those four teams that played last night. I have in the finals this year. I have the Bucks and the Lakers meeting up this season. I think, man, Giannis, like I'm not gonna go into it right now. But Giannis looked really, really good. I think Brooklyn has some rotational stuff to figure out, some defensive stuff to figure out. It's going to be a long year for them and not really in a bad way. They just have a bunch of possibilities. Golden State, I've seen everyone tweet it, and I'm in complete agreement. They are a competent big man away from doing some damage. Like, they're going to get Klay Thompson back. The rookies are going to hopefully contribute. Steph played a subpar game. He didn't shoot well from the field at all. He had his first triple double in like 5 years, and I thought that was funny. That he had a very inefficient game, but got the triple double and won. So people were making fun of Westbrook, saying that's the traditional Westbrook thing to shoot 5% from the field, or just being kind of exaggerating a little bit. But then getting the triple double and you get the dub. Man, the Lakers. I got kind of in, not an argument, but like a spat. We were kind of going back and forth with a buddy, and he said, the Lakers don't have enough. Their roster's not constructed right. He didn't trust Frank Vogel with rotations. And I said that's valid. Like, Frank Vogel's made some bad rotational decisions, but it's a long year. It's just one game. He said, well, no, it's not just one game. These problems are going to exist all year. I said, the Russell Westbrook thing, we have seen Russell Westbrook play poorly and struggle until like February or March some years. Like that second in 1920 with Houston, after the All-Star break, he was phenomenal. Like, before he had the quad injury or whatever happened, he was making concessions to Harden. He was shooting the ball better. He was happier. He was playing good ball. Last year after the All-Star break, same thing was happening. So I think this is a Lakers team that we've seen LeBron squads struggle a little bit and then eventually figure it out. They hardly ever look the same at the end of the year as they do at the beginning of the year. And I think that this is going to be the same thing. Like, I'm far, 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 far from hitting the panic button on the Lakers after one game, even if there's some stuff they have to figure out. And I think you've got to put AD at the 5. And I know it's something they mentioned in the playoffs. I know it's something that AD doesn't want to do too much. It's going to be hard on him, but you can't space the floor adequately enough, I think, for a guy like Russell Westbrook, unless Anthony Davis is at the 5.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Spacing the floor for the Lakers is going to be a problem in general. The NBA value shooters, and the Lakers just don't really have a ton of dangerous guys on the perimeter. They have a lot of guys that can slash. They've got a lot of good veterans that just know basketball, right? I think we said this on a previous podcast, or maybe just in a discussion between the two of us, but the Lakers basically seem like the team that you create on 2K, where the guys that don't know basketball a lot, they're like, oh yeah, Russell Westbrook, he's good, I'll put him on the team. Oh yeah,
Yep.
Carmelo
Yep.
Anthony, I know that name, he can come on the team. And look, like, it's probably going to work, right? It's like you said, it's probably going to work out, but it's going to have to work in a different way than most of the NBA operates, I think. And they're not a team that's built to play from behind, right? They got to a point where they needed to hit some big shots, and I sent you the message, right? They're relying on guys like Bazemore and Russell Westbrook to hit deep threes and big time 3-pointers, and like, that's just not how the Lakers are built. So yeah, they'll have some stuff to work out. Maybe they'll make some moves. I thought Malik Monk looked okay in stretches. He's a guy we talked about last week as well. Hoping that he can be kind of a spark plug off the bench. I think, struggled to knock down a few open shots. But again, it's game one. It's game one, right? How in depth do you want your analysis to be after just one game? In my opinion, I think you kind of move on from it. You see what happens. Love the Warriors ball movement. They're super fun to watch.
It's so great.
If you caught it last week, I had the Warriors down at, like, I don't have my list in front of me anymore, but oh yeah, I do. I had the Warriors at 18 on my league pass teams. And after last night, like, they shoot right up the board. Love the ball movement. Love the guys that, like Jordan Poole, who was doing a lot of really good things. He was really fun to watch. And I just think the team in general is a lot of fun. If you're a basketball purist, that's the basketball I want to watch. And then to the first game, look, the Bucks are who we should have assumed they would be, right? Fantastic team. Same team as last year, basically, with a few tweaks. Giannis is the best player on the planet, and he might have gotten better, right? He shot the ball better. He just looked phenomenal. Kevin Durant, still fun to watch. Like that. Those two teams are really fun teams. And that was a really fun game just to watch the talent, the absolute unicorns, watching 2 7-footers that can move the way they do. Like, I want them to play every playoff series. Like, I want to see them in the first round, second round, third round, and in the finals. Like, that's just a really fun matchup. So
let's talk contracts real quick.
Let's get to it, man. Let's get to it. So there were a couple that came out. I want your thoughts on a few of these guys. I know you're a Jaren Jackson Jr. guy, JJJ. I'll let you kick it off. Talk about him. 4 years, $105 million. I know that Twitter was a little bit, I'll just say they're negative, right? I think the general attitude about that was a bit negative, but tell me what you think.
Man, I get it. Like, it's risky because he's missed a ton of time. He doesn't rebound well for a big man. He is a unique player, but like, on the flip side of that coin, he's a unique player. Like, the 3-point volume, the 3-point efficiency is insane. He has terrific defensive upside. I think he's a really good athlete that can step out and switch. He's a versatile defender. His rim protection, I think, is underrated. People think that he's like some 7-foot, 190-pound, like, can't hang with people just because he doesn't rebound well. I don't think that's the case. He's not a soft player by any stretch. He's a good defender, has potential to be a great one. Offensive, I don't like throwing the word unicorn around because I just don't. But I think he's kind of an offensive unicorn. Like, that's the way to describe it with the stuff he can do. Risky contract, but and even in the first game, like you mentioned, he shot 3 of 12 or whatever. He didn't do much all game long. And then he had like a 2-minute stretch or however long it was where he had a block and then an outlet pass. And then he hit a pull-up 3. And then he, I think, blocked another shot and then like had a lob pass. And like, he just flashes. And if he can live up to 90% of that potential, or even like 85%, I think he's worth that contract. And I think if he lives up to 100% of it, it's going to be at just over 25 million a year. I think it's going to be good value, even great value for a Memphis team, man. Him and Ja, I think they're just scratching the surface. It gives Ja a reliable pick and roll target, and a guy that can pick and pop as well, and knock down some really deep threes if needed. So I think Jaren Jackson Jr., he isn't a great player right now. He may not even be a very good player right now, but I think he has potential to be a really, really good NBA player.
48, 37, 76. His career averages. I think he's played over 100 games. I think 50 games, over 50 games his first 2 years, and then not many last year. 48% from the field, 37 from three, 76% from the free throw line. He just turned 22. This contract goes from age 22 to 23 to 24 to 25. He'll be 26 when the contract is up, just entering his prime. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the people that were negative on Twitter, I noticed, were not Memphis Grizzlies fans. Like the Grizzlies fans seem pretty pumped up about this, and they're the ones that have been able to watch him, the ones that have been following him.
Yeah.
And the other thing about this you have to think about is that there's no way the Grizzlies gave him this contract without consulting some doctors, right? Without kind of getting a feel for his overall health. Yes, it's risky, but I'm sure that they have a pretty good gauge on how risky it really is. And I think
they didn't blindly just hand it out.
Right. And I think 4 years, $105 million means that there's a lot of confidence in that front office that Jaren's going to get healthy. So I like it. Good signing. I don't have much more to add than you did. The guy's a good player, and he can be a really, really good player if he's healthy. You got to give him the money. You got to keep him around. You got a young core. That's a team that is heading in the right direction. Really like what they're doing in Memphis. Next guy, guy that I think as soon as Jaren was given his contract, people started to compare his contract with Mikal Bridges, right? Bridges got 4 years, $90 million. They're different players, right? But their impacts are different too. But basically, Bridges, 3-and-D guy. And I think this contract's a testament to how much the NBA values those 3-and-D guys, right? A lot of people say, like, you can find 3-D guys all over the place. Why would you fork out that much cash? You can find someone else that can do similar stuff. Jordan, find me a 6'7" wing with a 7'1" wingspan that can shoot 40% from three and shut down the best players in the NBA on the defensive end. No, you don't. You don't find that everywhere. You don't. Bridges was 6 percentage points away from being a 50, 40, 90 guy last season. 6 percentage points from the free throw line, from being 50, 40, 90 last season. Like, he deserves the contract. I don't think many people are arguing that he doesn't. But there are some rumblings, right, that you paid a 3-D guy too much. Like, he's not your main contributor, et cetera, et cetera. But you can't find Mikal Bridges types on trees.
If people want to call him a role player, even as a guy that starts, I don't have a huge problem with that. But also, he's one of the best role players, like, in the past 5 years or so that's came into the NBA. Like, the stuff he can do, it's very good value for a player who I think could top out as like an 18 point per game scorer on really, really good efficiency. He's a great, like, third or even fourth player to have on your team. He can lock up the opponent on offense. Like, he's never going to be the guy that shoulders a huge offensive load, so he can't give his all on defense. Like, we see that with stars all the time. He's always going to be able to give big effort on defense because he's never going to be relied upon to do crazy stuff. You know, he can hit the 3 ball with accuracy. He doesn't have to put the ball on the floor very much. He flashed a little bit of that last season. Playing with Chris Paul, obviously, for all 4 of those years, I don't think Chris Paul's going to be there. I don't know if Chris Paul's going to be in the league in 4 years anymore.
Right.
But for him and Booker to grow together, and we'll talk about DeAndre Ayton here in a little bit, presumably hopefully DeAndre Ayton. I think it's good value. I think that what's that equal out to 22.5 million per year. Like that's
Yep.
not, especially with salary caps going up every season. People can nitpick and say you don't give really good role players that much. I think you give rare players that much, even if they do fit into that 3 and D mold. So I think we're both on the same page. You have to give him that type of money.
Yep. And he provides the spacing that Booker and Chris need, right, to operate the way they do. Let's talk about another Suns guy, Landry Shaman. He got 4 years, 42 million. I see you shaking. You're not shaking your head. You're a little iffy. What are your thoughts there?
At first, I really thought it was a good deal, and I was like, 10 million ish a year for Landry Shamet. Uh, that was kind of the projection in me speaking, and I'm big on projection. Like I try not to look at deals as what they are now, but what they could be. And I know that Landry Shamet has bounced around the league quite a bit. I know that he doesn't do a ton. I think that you can get bench shooters for cheaper than 10 million a year, 11 million a year in today's NBA. With that said, he's still relatively young. It's a little rich for what he is right now. I can definitely agree with that. I know a lot of people have said they just downright hate the deal. I don't hate it. I think he has potential to be more than just a knockdown marksman off the bench. Like, I don't know if that takes the form of a knockdown starter who plays, 30 minutes and then concedes to a sixth man who can do a little bit more and create his own shot. I don't know what it's going to be offensively. I know his defense is not good, but the Suns believe in him. He's going to be there for 4 years, presumably. I don't dislike the contract. I don't love it. But I think, could they have gotten similar production right now for a slightly cheaper price? I think they could. But in 4 years, it's a swing on a player who could improve. And looking back on the contract, I don't think we're going to look back and say they completely overpaid for Landry Shamet.
Yeah, so I think 42 million is a staggering number on the surface, but it's a little over 10 million a year to a guy that could potentially replace Chris Paul as the primary ball handler, which I know sounds funny because he's not necessarily like a guy I think of as a dynamic creator. He's definitely not going to fill Chris Paul's shoes the way that he would hope. I'd understand that. But look, he's playing on a team coached by Monty Williams, who's a fantastic mentor. He's got CP3 as a mentor as well. Perhaps that can help the playmaking as he moves forward, as he grows as a player. He is a career 39.7% three-point shooter on 5 attempts a game, or over 5 attempts a game. So you're paying, again, $10 million to a player like that. Could potentially be your point guard, your starting point guard in the future. And to put it in perspective, he's making roughly the same money a year as Reggie Jackson, Devontae Graham, Josh Hart, Jeremy Lamb. So in that respect, probably an all right contract. Like you said, I don't love it, but I think the Suns, I don't think they overpaid.
Yeah, and people compare it to they paid more than they paid Cam, whichever Cam Johnson or Payne. I think it was Cam Johnson to come back. No, it might have been Payne. They have two Cams. I can't remember which one they just recently shelled out money to. But like, yeah, I get it. Could they have overpaid? Sure. But is it like a gross overpay? I don't think so. And could he be better than people think? I think so. So Monty really likes him. He really likes Monty. He said that he finally feels at home and like a team wants to keep him around. And I think that means quite a bit for players, man. People ignore the fact that fit means a ton, especially for young players. So if Landry Shamet actually feels confident now, he thinks that a team enjoys having him around. He knows that he has a clear role. I think that can benefit his play.
Right on. I've got two more. We can run through these fairly quickly. Grayson Allen is a guy. Just got. I didn't write it down. 2 years, 20 million. I think is what he got from the Bucks. Similar amount per year as Shamet, but 2 years instead of 4. I actually think Grayson's pretty good. We got to look at him last night. He was fine. Another guy knocking down just under 40% of his threes on 4 attempts a game. playing 19 minutes per game in his career. Not a wildly good defender, but he's athletic. He's a hard worker, still young, guy that can get better. I think 10 million for a guy like Allen, again, a guy that's going to be a spark off the bench. It's going to play hard, and a guy that's going to space the floor for you if you're the Bucks. I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's kind of the going rate if those guys are young. Like if those guys are 31, 32, 33, they're clearly not vet minimum players. Like it's not like the Lakers can say, hey, Grayson Allen, come play for the vet men, even if he is 30 years old. Grayson Allen's not 30. He's significantly younger than that. I think, teams can. It seems like we had that big salary cap spike in 2016 or whatever. And obviously we're 5 years removed from that, but guys got these, it kind of reset the market for role players. And I don't know what the going rate is for a guy that plays gritty defense and knocks down threes, or like Landry Shaman, who knocks down threes, but maybe has a little bit more to his game. I don't think giving 10 million a year to someone who can legitimately help you off the bench, and occasionally step into the starting lineup, I think that's fair. Like I don't love Grayson Allen. I don't think that he's a very good player. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a net plus for the Bucks, whether he steps in and starts or comes off the bench. To be able to knock down threes at that rate is always going to be valuable. He's had some, like, I know he spazzed a couple times in the G League. He had one crazy game when he was with the Jazz. Like he has shown flashes of being a really fun player for a team and being able to create his own shot sometimes. There's just, it's not even projection because it's a 2-year deal. Like he's still going to be probably close to the same player, maybe even a little bit better, you'd assume, like with a traditional aging curve or whatever. I think it's fine. I don't love it and I don't hate it. I think that it's good for Grayson Allen and it's good for the Bucks.
Sure. Last guy that I want to talk about that got a contract, Kevin Herter, Red Velvet, 4 years, $65 million deal. I've gone first the last couple. What do you think of Kevin's deal?
I think it's great value. I think for a young player who can shoot the lights out, and people think because he averages like 2 assists or whatever it is, it might even be 3, that he just doesn't move the ball offensively. I think he can put the ball on the floor a little bit and make stuff happen. He is an underrated passer, I think. He fits in well with that team, and he's young. They can invest in their young core. People keep bringing up you can't pay everybody. They can pay quite a few people. Like this, the Hawks are going to figure it out. And when you have Herter, who, that's 16 million, roughly a little over 16 million a year. Could they have gotten him for a little bit cheaper? I don't think so. Like, I think this is a really solid deal. I don't know what he'd command on the open market. A lot of that depends on what his role is on specific different teams. I think it's great value. I like Herter a lot. I think that he has a very, very, very high floor on a team like that. And the ceiling may be just a little bit higher than people think.
Yeah, you mentioned he's a decent passer. He's a great pick and roll ball handler. Yeah. And not only that, he's shown the ability to create his own shot as well. He's a late in the shot clock guy, getting the ball. He is a really good player. A 6'7" secondary playmaker, hits above 35% of his threes. I've seen a trend here, by the way. A lot of these guys are shooting 35+% from three that are getting big money. I think he's worth it. And plus, Atlanta has a ton of depth. And at some point, they're going to have to make some moves, most likely. And you don't want to just get rid of a guy. You don't want to just let him go to free agency. So you lock him up 4 years, $65 million. If you need to make some trades, like that's a fairly attractive contract, right? For a guy that could be a pretty big contributor for another team at $16 million a year for 4 more years. So I think it's a good deal. I like Kevin Herter a lot. We talked about the Hawks. They're number 4 on my big board for most exciting teams to watch this year. And Kevin Herter's a big reason, man. Truthfully, like he's a guy that could be, we'll talk about it later, but he's a spark off the bench for sure. I love it. I don't love that DeAndre Ayton didn't get his max extension. Does he deserve it? Yes. In my opinion, absolutely. What do you think?
I think it's twofold. Based on the market, it's a no-brainer. Like, I'm just going to preface it with the Suns had to max him out. Like, because if they don't, or they didn't, obviously, another team's going to. Like, I don't know why they're playing the let's wait until he hits restricted free agency, match an offer sheet for a max. Like, I don't get that. They're going to have to pay up either way. And I know that because he's a Sun already, they can pay him more, and then the escalators, all that stuff. Someone mentioned, I see why the Suns wanted to play like hard to get with him or something like that, but delaying the inevitable doesn't help. And now people are reporting he's unhappy with them. I don't know how much I buy into that. I'd be kind of ticked too if I really put together a good season and a good postseason, broke out, and then was a part of their young core that got to the finals, like him and Booker, and they're like, we're not going to max you out. So I totally get that. I think right now he is not worthy of a max contract. Like, if you take the market out of it, I wouldn't max him out. I don't think he's quite that much of a franchise changing player, but I am traditionally like a stingy. If I was an owner and the NBA didn't have, it's the sports world where you don't take the market into account, and you have to when you're doing these deals. I'm trying to dance around bashing DeAndre Ayton because I like him and he's a good player. But I think he's just going to be a really good player. I'm not quite sure he's going to be great. And do you max out like truly great players? Yes. If he's very productive and is a good defender and a solid third option offensively, do you max him out? It goes back to that argument. So I think obviously with the market, with young players who have broken out, with guys like Chris Middleton making a ton of money, you have to do it, and shame on the Suns for not doing it. And I get the arguments with people saying, I probably wouldn't max him out, because I don't think I would either in a vacuum, but this isn't a vacuum. And based on the market, based on stuff that other teams have done, these situations don't always end particularly well. And I think the Suns are digging themselves in a hole here.
I disagree with you, man. I think even in a vacuum, this guy's a max player. A double average, 60% from the field, block a game, great defender, good defender, will be great. I truly believe he will develop into. If you don't believe he's a great defender right now, you have to believe that he will be, at least in my opinion, right? I don't know who you get to replace him. Like, can you pay less than the max and get a guy that contributes as much as him? I don't think so. I mean, I really don't think so. I'm surprised he didn't get the deal at the deadline. I have no question in my mind that he deserves it. I hope we don't have a drama-filled season where he's frustrated with the team and it affects his performance. I don't know Ayton, obviously. I don't know anyone that knows him, but just from watching him and listening to him in spurts in press conferences, I don't think that's going to be the case. Maybe he's frustrated, but I don't see it affecting his performance. I hope it doesn't. I think he deserves the max. No question.
Well, and like, you have to do it. Like, whether I think he's going to be a transcendent player or not, there are a ton of non-transcendent players who are getting the max right now. Like, you have to do it. If you think he's going to be a major part of your franchise moving forward, you can't dodge around giving him the max. Like that, there was one choice the Suns really should have had to make. And it was, when are we getting it done? Not if we're going to get it done. And they obviously didn't. It's a dumb move on their part, I think, to not do it and allow this to drag out. So I think Ayton's going to be really good. I think he already is a good player. His defense he came into the league and I was super, super worried that he wouldn't ever become a good defender. and he quickly in year 2 stepped up big time. And
Yeah.
like offensively, if he expands his range and not even becomes like a great 3-point shooter, maybe like a league average 3-point shooter, keeps developing the mid-range game, then we're talking about a guy who I even would say hands down, like you have to, and it's like that anyway. Like they had to do it either way, no matter what. I don't know what I'm trying to justify to myself. I think I'm just trying to, in my stingy world, is he going to be a star? I think there's a good shot that he's going to be a star level ish player. Superstars get the super max, stars get the max. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. They had to do it and they didn't do it. And regardless of how high we think his ceiling is, it was a misstep on the Suns' part, and shame on servers, shame on the front office for hopefully it doesn't affect his play, like you said, because if he's ticked off and he plays well, then great. I don't know where that's going to get them. But if he doesn't play well and it, negatively impacts the team, they're going to look themselves in the mirror and say, now Chris Paul's 50 years old and the team's going to fall apart.
By the way, halftime of the Suns game, Suns Nuggets, Suns up by 7, 8 and 13 points to lead all Suns scorers. 4 rebounds, 5 of 7 from the field, 1 of 2 from beyond the arc. Let's take a quick break. We're already like 45 minutes into this one. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk to you about our basically preseason award predictions. What's up, everyone? We wanted to take a quick second to show you some items available in the Crashing Hoops store. Fall is coming, and we have you covered with hoodies, long sleeve tees, and even a mug for some coffee or hot chocolate. Plenty of colors are available, and new items are added often. So click the link in our bio and head to the Crashing Hoops store now. Welcome back to Crashing the Association. We'll get through this pretty quickly. I know we've been chatting for a while about hoops. We could chat all night. Jordan, let's talk about our award predictions. Again, we're recording this on Wednesday night, so we've got the first block of games over with, the second block about at halftime, and then obviously last night's Nets, Bucks, and Lakers Warriors game. So we've seen some of these guys play. I think both of us had a pretty good idea of who we were going to pick in this anyway, and I tried not to let what we saw yesterday sway my opinions on some of these. But let's start with Rookie of the Year. We're going, I don't know how you did it. For me, I did top 3. I did 3, 2, 1. I don't know if you did just 3 total players you think could get it or your top 3, but why don't you start with Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, man, I think if there was a year to have a co-Rookie of the Year, I think it could be this one with Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham, because they're so great in different ways. But in today's NBA, I think the edge is going to go to the high scorer more than the guy who plays more well-rounded basketball. So if I'm picking, I'd vote probably for Green and Cunningham, but I'm going to go Green edges them out just a bit, then Cade Cunningham, and then I have Jalen Suggs coming in third. I think he's going to really take the lead in that Magic race to put 50,000 guards into 4 spots and kind of figure out what they're going to do. I think Suggs, he's a great leader. He's a good shooter. He can create his own shot. He plays hard defense. He can do pretty much everything you need in a player. I don't know if that's going to manifest itself into like 15, 3, and 4 as a rookie or whatever. How it's going to look. The team success isn't going to be there for any of these guys, but that would be my top 3, I think.
Okay. I also have Jalen Green 1, Cade Cunningham 2. I think, yes, Jalen will score more points. He'll look more flashy. I think Cade's going to be a great player, get the job done. I also think the Rockets are going to draw more eyes. And honestly, like when it comes to rookies that are generally playing on pretty bad teams, the rookie of the year, or the ones that people are more apt to pick, are the ones that are playing for the more exciting team, the one that you're a little more excited to watch, excuse me. So I don't remember where you had the Rockets on your league pass board. I had them at 6 on mine. I think you had them top 10 as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to be fun, and that's
Yeah,
just as much about Green as it is about Kevin Porter Jr.
sure. And then number 3 for me, I put Mobley. I am super biased when it comes to Evan Mobley, man. Like, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna be following him. I haven't ordered his jersey. I have to soon. Again, my first name's Evan. My nickname growing up was Mobley, and so he's got to be my favorite player, right? But again, I mean, I also think Evan is a guy. He's playing on a team that he's going to be able to contribute on right away. He's a big guy, which means, well, it doesn't mean much. I guess I don't know why I said he's a big guy, so that could help. But he is a big guy that's fun to watch. A big guy that does more than just be a big guy down in the post. So I just think he has a chance to contribute enough on the Cavs to get some votes. Is all I'm saying there. So both of us agree. Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham 1 and 2. I've got Mobley as 3. You have Suggs as 3. I don't think Suggs is a bad pick. I just don't think he or anyone else on the Magic are going to be able to perform. He might look good, but like numbers wise, I don't think he's really going to be able to contribute and produce what he's going to need to get those votes. But who knows? Again, not a bad pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I love the Mobley one. I think that could easily. I was debating between him. Like, if I had to go to 4, he would have been my 4th, and then I would have pulled something crazy like Josh Giddey at 5 or something. I think that Giddey, he's so fun, and he was already making some fun passes on night 2, night 1.5 of the NBA. So Mobley, man, I love him. Like, I'm kind of biased towards him too. Secondhand bias with Evan Mobley, but man, all the rookies are going to be super fun to watch.
Yeah. By the way, Josh Giddey tonight in his debut, 4 points, but 10 rebounds. He led Oklahoma City with 10 rebounds, 3 assists. Let's see, 2 of 7 from the field. Didn't take any threes, but he's playing for the Thunder. Tough night. They had 3 players in double figures. Jeremiah Robinson Earl was one of them, by the way. Played 13 minutes, scored 10 points on 4 of 6 from the field, 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. So interesting. We'll have to watch that a little bit. But anyway, back to the picks. Let's go into most improved player, Jordan.
This one I had 1 and 2 in flux, and then I kind of cheated because night 1 reiterated, kind of backed up my bias, I suppose, or like my previous stance. It was confirmation bias. I got Jordan Poole. Man, Jordan Poole just, it's going to be opportunity. And I thought about putting him in the 6th man of the year candidacy, but then with Clay out, I don't know how often he's going to start. I don't know if the rotation ever cracks with somebody else. So for the sake of simplicity, I think Poole is going to win it. I think that one of the PJs, whether it's MPJ or KPJ, I have them tied for 2nd.
Okay.
And then I'd put Keldon Johnson. Like, I have a 2A, 2B with Michael Porter Jr., Kevin Porter Jr. And then Keldon Johnson would be number 3. I don't know if he's going to have the numbers for it. Like, I think Keldon's going to look a lot better this year. Kind of like Jalen Suggs. I just don't know if the numbers are going to match the level of play he brings every night. And I know that you're going to touch on Jordan Poole, I'm guessing, on this one. So I'm going to pass it back to you.
Yeah, I mean, all the same reasons you said. I have Jordan Poole number 1 as well. And yes, probably some bias from watching him play last night. I like that Keldon Johnson pick. I don't have him in my top 3. It's one I would consider, though. Tonight he scored 15 on 6 of 12 from the field, 4 rebounds and an assist. Again, the Spurs, not the most exciting team, but in typical Spurs fashion, they had 7 players score in double figures. No one score over 20. So
nice.
Yeah. Interesting team. But I have Jordan Poole first. I have OG Anunoby second.
Oh, I forgot OG. And
Yeah.
I've been beating that breakout drum for a month and I completely blanked on that. Oh my
That's all right.
goodness.
Yeah, I think he's in a position to have to contribute for the
Yeah.
Raptors, right? Like Pascal's good. I'm not as high on him as a lot of people might be.
Yeah.
Fred's good, but again, not super high on him. I think OG needs to have a big year, and I think he's capable of having a big year. So I think he'll be up there. And then I've got Michael Porter Jr. at 3. I the only thing that kind of the only thing that kept me from putting him too high up is that I'm not sure how much he can actually improve from
Mhm.
last year. Like, he's going to be a very good player. He's going to keep getting better. But if you simply just look at stats, like we'll pull this up. So last year, 19 points. He shot what was he? Let's see, 40 or 54% from the field. He was 44% from 3. So, like, is he going to shoot higher than 44% from 3? Probably not. Is he going to score more than 19 points on a team with Jokic, soon to be Murray, Aaron Gordon, etc.? I doubt it. I'd love to see it, but I doubt it. Pulled in 7 rebounds. Is he going to have more than 7 this year? Maybe he averages a double double, but like, he's going to be a fantastic player. He's going to be better than he was last year, but like, how much is he going to improve rather than like
Yeah.
just, relative to how good he just is? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think, and I don't mind Kevin Porter Jr. either. I think that could be a sneaky good one too. But
I'd like to pull Keldon and put OG in my top
okay,
3. I
okay.
totally, dude, I totally forgot about OG. And like I put that list together and I kind of felt like I missed something. I think I tweeted like a few weeks ago OG could win MIP, and then I go and put my list together and I don't have them. So I'd like to make an amendment to that list.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, let's move on to defensive player of the year.
I'm gonna let you take it, Evan. I'm gonna let you give your top 3 first.
My top 2 are kind of boring. Rudy Gobert, got him at number 1. Got Giannis at number 2. Um, uh, what do you want me to say? Like, they're 2 great
Yeah.
defenders, 2 guys that are going to continue to be great defenders. Rudy play. I mean, he's the anchor on a Jazz team that's going to be very good. They're going to be a good defensive team, and it's going to be because of him. And I just don't see how a 7'8", what is it, 7'8", 7'9" wingspan,
It's unreal.
um, a guy that can block shots, alter shots. I don't see how you can't put him in your top 3. Giannis, he's a freak of nature. Just a tremendous hardworking player. I think he's going to be even better than he was last year, which is scary. It's very scary. Yeah, I'm going to save my number 3. Tell me your top 2.
My top 2 are Bam Adebayo, number 1,
Okay.
and then Anthony Davis, number 2.
Okay.
And then I've got Gobert rounding out the top 3.
Okay.
I thought about Draymond Green, I thought about Giannis, but I gave the edge to Gobert for everything you listed. Like, it's, if you have him out of your top 3, then I just don't know what to say. Voter fatigue or not, I think he's so good that like if he's the best, you just keep giving it to him. But I
Right.
think Bam, just his versatility defensively, I just love. He's one of my favorite players in the league. I think Bam deserves it. If he plays well this year, and then AD, if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to remind quite a few people of how good he is on that end.
Well, I love a Kentucky guy or two in your top
Yeah.
3 as defensive player of the year. So my number 3 is Matisse Thybulle. Actually, I wanted to see if you
I
have him in your
love
top
that.
3. I think, I mean, everyone knows he's a good defender, right? But if the Sixers, we're going to assume they're going to be Ben Simmons list, right? Like, the dude's not playing for him. Like, he's just not.
Yeah.
He's not going to. If they're going to be Ben Simmons lists and still make the playoffs, still be a top 5 seed, Thybulle has to be a good defender. Like, he is going to have to stand out as a good defender. He already does, but he's going to have to take it to another level. I think he's very capable of it, but he's going to be more in the spotlight than he has been in the past. He's not just going to be, oh, that's, oh, that's cute. Matisse is coming in. He's going to play good defense. Like, no, he's got to be the guy. And obviously, Joel, Embiid's a good defender as well. But I just think Thibault is going to stand out is all.
Yeah, and I would have had him top 3, even like number 3, if I knew if I knew what the spotlight per se was going to look like in terms of minutes and opportunity, like verbatim. I definitely would put him up there. I'm just a little bit hesitant because I don't know how much he's going to be relied upon. I think he has multiple defensive player of the year potential. Like, this is a guy that in his prime could win it back to back to back years or something just by being so freaking good on that end. And a lot of people don't like talking defense. Man, I love talking defense. Like, this was my favorite award to put together.
Yeah. I just like to study defense, right? Because it's
it's so nuanced.
Well, it is, and like the NBA is a really hard league to defend in. Super good athletes, floor is spaced obviously to the max. No hand checking, like fouls are called relatively easily. So it's just a hard league to defend in. And when guys are doing it well, when the coach has a nice defensive scheme, like all that stuff is super interesting to me. I like to see it as well, which will probably make for a pretty boring podcast if you and I are just talking defense all the time. So we'll have to watch that. A couple more. Let's start with 6th man of the year. I'm really interested to see who you have. I think I said this to you before the show. I think we're going to have 2 or 3 of these the same. What do you have top 3?
I feel like I put this list together a while ago because at my number 2 spot, I have Patty Mills, but I don't think he's going to qualify because now with the Kyrie thing him not playing, if Mills was a 6th man, I think he'd be in contention for it.
Sure.
So I think I must have put this together a while ago because I have Mills number 2 and now he like started, I believe, last night. Without Kyrie, I think that's going to continue to be the case. So even if Kyrie comes back in like 41 games, I don't know what the cutoff is going to be, which is weird because like the minutes thing, we've had Lou Williams average upwards of like 30 minutes a game, right. But he comes off the bench, so he counts as the 6th man, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not sure about that. I have Jordan Clarkson number 1. I don't, if he keeps playing well, and that's another one where he's going to play like 28, 29, maybe even 30 minutes a game. He's so good at, like, the Jordan Clarkson experience is one of my favorite things to watch in the NBA because on nights where he's on, he can drop 30, like he can drop 33, 34 with ease and just be unstoppable. Or when he's cold, he can shoot like 3 of 15 from the field. He can like not play defense. He can like not really pass very much. It's very fun to watch him. It's kind of chaotic. But he's kind of leveled out a little bit and not his older age because he's still not a wily veteran per se. But Clarkson, just such a fun player to watch. I think that with the Jazz, he has a clear role carved out. He's kind of bought into what they're about. They need a player like him to just come and get buckets off the bench. He's going to have every opportunity to do so. Number 3, I've got Tyler Hero. I'm buying in. I'm going to keep doubling down on Tyler Hero. My stock is bought. I haven't sold it even when it was high a couple years back in the bubble. I guess that was just 1 year ago, wasn't it? Technically,
one calendar 2 seasons, year. But yeah, 1 year. Yeah, it's been a weird.
Oh, it's all a blur. But if the preseason showings were legit, where he looked stronger, he played stronger, he played somehow more confident with the ball in his hands, he gets the 6th man opportunity. I don't think he's going to start a ton of games for the Heat this year, barring injury. I think Hero could quietly average like a more efficient 18 points per game or something like that. And that's got to give you at least some contention, whether it's top 5, top 3, what have you.
So we only have one similarity in our top 3. I have Tyler Hero at 2, actually.
Okay.
I have Derrick Rose at number 1. I think that voters are sympathetic to Derrick Rose, but I don't think he's going to win the award as a sympathy. Like, it's not going to be a sympathy pick. I think Derrick Rose, I think that he is the heartbeat of the Knicks. Like, it's there's no question. Like when he comes onto the floor for the Knicks, that crowd goes wild. And he's a huge contributor, right? Like he's just a team player. In the offseason, someone asked him what they say. I don't remember the specific question or the specific quote, so don't take it verbatim. But they basically asked him, like, what do you think, about the starting point guard spot? You got Kemba Walker now. Like, what do you think? And Derrick Rose is like, nah, man, I'm backup. Like, that's my role.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. Kemba's the guy. He's a New York guy. Excited for him and excited to work with him. Like, he's a team player. I know someone personally that spent some time around Derrick Rose and says the same thing. Like, Derrick Rose treats everyone super nicely. And I know being a nice guy doesn't win you sixth man of the year. Like, I completely understand. But like tonight, Derrick Rose scored just 9 points, 5 assists. He played 22 minutes, but hit some big shots at the end of the game. I just think the Knicks are going to be a successful team this year. And I think Derrick Rose is going to get the eyes. He's going to get the looks. And he's going to get the votes. That's what I think. Tyler Hero, number 2, Kevin Herter, number 3. We already talked about Kevin Herter this week. Look, I think Jordan Clarkson's great. It's probably a bad idea to leave him out of my top 3. You're absolutely right about that pick. No qualms there. But I really like Kevin Herter, man. I think the Hawks are going to be another team that a lot of people are kind of they're keeping the Hawks at the 5-6 seed. I could see the Hawks getting 2 or 3 seed this year.
I could too.
And again, we keep talking about, if the team's successful, these guys are going to get the eyes and the votes. I think Kevin Herter, people are going to see it, man. People are going to see that this guy's for real. He's a phenomenal spark plug off the bench, a playmaker, a shot creator, and just a hardworking defender as well. So I like him. I like him for some 6 man of the year votes.
I dig it, man. I love Herter. The Derrick Rose thing, I didn't even for some reason register Derrick Rose being 6th man, but it's weird because last year he would come off the bench and Tibbs would like run him into the ground, but like he was responding and like playing super well. And
yeah, man,
I love Derrick Rose. One of my favorite players over this last decade. I love the story. I know that a lot of these awards are narrative based. Like you said, the sympathy factor might come into play a little bit. And obviously that's not why we're making these picks based on narratives, but he's going to be a good player too. And like, if he can average like 13, 14, like 3 or 4 assists, make some big shots, make some big plays. He's the way he takes care of his body now and like puts so much time and effort into it. He clearly wants to be there. He doesn't have to be there. He could easily retire and be healthier and not have to worry about putting hours upon hours upon hours. He's like, I know LeBron spends a lot of time and money on his body. I bet Derrick Rose has spent just as much time. I don't know about the money because LeBron spends literally like $1 million a year on himself. But D Rose goes through so much just to suit up every night and be available and play those high intensity minutes for Tibbs. He's happy now. I could see him thriving, and I love that pick.
Awesome. Let's go to Coach of the Year. I had trouble with Coach of the Year. I always do, because I always feel like the easiest picks for Coach of the Year are the coaches that are coaching like the best teams, right? But the best teams are usually the best teams because of the best players. They have the best players, excuse me. So like, is Steve Nash Coach of the Year because KD led the Nets to a 1 seed? Like, probably not. So I tried to come up with some guys that I think will need to be great coaches in order for their teams to be great. My number 3 is Rick Carlisle at Indiana. I think Indiana is a team that has the potential to be great. They've got some really good players. It's funny because we both had them really low on our league pass draft list. And when we got to them, we kind of said, like, look, they do have some guys. Like they've got a decent team and a decent chance to make the playoffs. And I think if they play really well, if they're well coached, they have the talent to be the East is tough, but you think definitely, I mean, a 6 through 10 seed is what we'll say, right?
Yeah.
That's in my opinion about 6 is probably their max potential. And if they can get that 6 seed, get into the playoffs, I think Rick Carlisle is a guy that could get some votes. Number 2, I've got Ty Lue. I picked Ty Lue because, first of all, I think he's a great coach. I really do. I think he's a phenomenal coach. But the Clippers are another team. Like they have, they're decent, right? Paul George could, well, we'll talk about that in a second. Paul George is an important player and a great player. And if the Clippers can manage to make the playoffs, which I think they can make the playoffs. I don't think they're a lock for the playoffs. If they can make the playoffs, I think Ty Lue gets votes, right? Just because he is a great coach, and that would be overachieving for the Clippers. And then number 1, I've got Billy Donovan.
I dig it.
I think that the Bulls are such a weird project this year that they have some guys. I personally, we talked about this last week. I personally think the Bulls will be good. It might take them a little bit to figure it out, but they will be good. And I think they'll be. It's so hard to pick the East. I hate doing this. I hate hot takes, but I really think they could be a top 5 seed in the East. I think that's their potential. And I think if they can achieve that, that means that Billy Donovan has done one heck of a job putting together an interesting project of a team. I think they can do it. And that's why I have Billy Donovan at the top.
So I loved your picks, first of all. I did a seeding thing the other day, and I have my order of 15 for the East and West because I didn't know if we were going to do that. And I kind of went with ranges as well. So I love that you brought those up. I have Billy Donovan second for every reason you listed.
Cool.
I think that if they do end up, I have them as the 8 seed. I think their ceiling would be like that 5th, like you mentioned. I think they're a playoff team. Either way, I think Nate McMillan is my 3rd. I think that the Hawks, I have the Hawks as my 4 seed. I could see them being as high as 2 because they're so young and they have so much room to grow. I have Eric Spoelstra number 1, which is probably a bad pick. Like, of all my picks I made, he's the best coach, I think, right now. Considering Pop maybe has lost a step or 2 as a coach. Granted, he doesn't have the talent anymore. Quinn Snyder's obviously great. There are good coaches across the NBA. Steve Kerr is going to remind people this year, I think, that he's a great coach. There's a ton. Carlisle's one of my favorites. Ty Lue's fantastic. There are a lot of good coaches around the league right now. I almost went with, is it Udoka who got hired by Boston, right?
Yeah.
I almost went with him as like my 3rd if they got a 4 seed or something, which I think could be their absolute ceiling. Maybe even I don't want to say 3. I think a lot would have to go right for the Celtics in order to get that 3 spot, but top 4 seed maybe. But Spoelstra, man, the Heat have the potential, given Brooklyn's, I don't know what's going to go on with Brooklyn for some of this season, kind of like Atlanta. I think the 2 seed is somewhat up for grabs. The Heat are in the mix for that, I think. I have them finishing 3rd in the East. Spoelstra being the best coach, I think, in that conference would factor in with somebody, but also, like, Spoelstra's been this good for a while now. And unless the Heat like got the 1 seed, I'm not sure it'd be enough to get that for him. So I almost want to talk myself into moving him down and moving Donovan up. But that top 3, I think I'm going to somewhat confidently stick with Spoelstra, Donovan, McMillan in that order. With, you mentioned Carlisle. That's a fantastic pick. I think that there are a couple guys that could kind of catch some people off guard, but also, like, you expect a Carlisle coach team to do well. And he definitely, if they got that 6 seed, he'd have to get some votes for it, I think.
Yeah. I like the Nate McMillan pick. The reason I didn't, and I thought about him in depth. The reason I didn't pick him is because I think he put his bar so high last year when he took over,
Yeah,
and the Hawks did so well. I forget what their record was once he took over, but it was something
It was
incredible.
so freaking good.
And I would love to see them replicate that, but I feel like it'll be slightly downhill from, and not downhill in a sense that it's going to be bad for the Hawks, but like I don't think he's going to keep up that pace, and I think maybe that just kind of sways voters a little bit. But good pick. I completely see it. I think if he coached the Hawks for the whole year last year, he very well could have been coach of the year. But yeah, fair pick. So let's move on. Last one. Obviously, we got to talk about MVPs. Let's see. I don't know the best way to do this. Why don't you just take it?
At number 3, we'll go reverse order. How about that? We'll alternate 3, and then we'll alternate 2, and then we'll alternate 1. Sound good?
Yes.
Number 3, I have them finishing as the 6th seed in the Western Conference, which is why I can't move them any higher. Move this player any higher. Luka's gonna crack the top 3 this year. I think he's going to somehow get 39-9 or something. The stats are going to be bonkers. They have a ceiling of, I think, like 5 or 6. Like, I don't see them finishing any higher than that given the team they have. Porzingis could improve. I think that the defense is going to get better this season under Jason Kidd. I just don't know, man. I think that it's hard. Like Westbrook, I know, won the MVP when OKC wasn't like a top whatever seed. Luka just can't win until the team is one of the top tier teams in the West, I think. But that's going to be enough to, I think, get him the 3rd spot. I think that you could go in so many directions. I know you mentioned like 5. You could mention LeBron, AD, Kevin Durant, Harden. You could go in a plethora of directions. You could go with dark horse guys that jump up, but I'm going to stick to my guns, stick to my bias a little bit. I think Luka is going to get that 3rd spot.
Okay. I did make a top 5 because I really struggled to do a top 3. I have Luka at 4.
Okay.
I'm actually worried about the Mavericks. Like
I am too a little bit.
They didn't make any improvements in the offseason. We talked about it last week, might have downgraded a coach. And like, I think play-in for them, and obviously in the play-in, it's anyone's ball game, right? It's literally a wild card at that point. I think Luka's great. I think he's phenomenal. But man, it's going to be so hard. I mean, he's shown that he can do it. He did it last year. It's going to be so hard to play at the top, to be a top player in the league with that team for an entire season. Like, I think he can do it. I just don't know. I feel bad. I feel bad for Luka, man. I really do. I think that guy's phenomenal. He deserves the world. He deserves all the money and all the best teammates in the world, the best coach in the world, because I think he's a phenomenal player and I love watching him. But I don't see it for him this year. Not this year. He's got to win at least one before he gets out of here, and he's super young. But so I had him at 4. My number 3 is Steph Curry. I think the Warriors are going to be great. I think Steph's going to be great. And I don't need to break down the game of Steph Curry for anyone. I'm not going to get analytic on this. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player on a team that makes a big leap from last year. Obviously, when Clay gets healthy, it'll be even better. But we already saw the Warriors once this year. Steph didn't look great, but still a not great Steph was a very big contributor on a team that beat the Lakers.
Yeah, I've got Steph number 2.
Cool.
For all the reasons you mentioned. I think the team success, he's going to put up 30 points a game this year. I think the team success is just going to be better. I have them finishing 5th in the West this season, which 5-6, not enough to win it, but I think enough to give you consideration. Depending on when Clay gets back, maybe they do even 4 seed, but like I think there's a clear Utah, Phoenix are both going to be really good regular season teams. The Lakers, even if they don't figure it out, are going to be a top 4 or 5 seed. Denver is going to be a top 4 or 5 seed. So it's like a numbers game. Can the Warriors transcend that? Maybe. But That means you're number 2 guy, because I'm one spot ahead on both Luka and Steph. I'm interested to see who your number 2 guy is.
Do you want to guess?
Is it Paul George?
No, it's Kevin Durant. Um,
Okay.
okay. Thanks for saying Paul George. He was my number 5. I got Paul George as a
Okay.
dark horse. I saw your eyes, I saw you perk up a little bit when I was mentioning it, the Clippers earlier. I'll mention him briefly. I think Paul George is an MVP caliber player. I think Paul George looked great in spurts when Kawhi wasn't around last year. And I think that we're going to see a really good Paul George. And again, same concept with Ty Lue. If the Clippers do overperform and outperform expectations, make it into the playoffs, I think Paul George is going to be the guy that leads them there. And so that's why I think he's got the ability and potential to be an MVP. But number 2, I have Kevin Durant. I mean, look, one of the best players on the planet. He is, I said it last week, I'm not going to break down the game of Kevin Durant because you all get it. We're talking about MVPs here. Everyone knows these guys, but it's a Kevin Durant that might play a whole season without Kyrie and, needs to eat up contribute a lot of points to fill that gap. And I think he's very capable of it. I think he'll relish that role. And I think he's going to look really, really good.
Yeah, I would have KD up there, but I think the Harden factor, just like LeBron and AD, when you have 2 superstars on the team, I just don't know how that resonates with voters. And I know that with LeBron, I can see LeBron, if he balls out, getting top 3 consideration because of the narrative. And the MVP is very narrative based to go in year 19 and average 25, 7 and 7 or whatever LeBron's going to average. I could see that being a narrative. Like even last season before he got hurt, he was playing really, really well. But the Durant thing, I don't disagree with anything you said. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic. I think Harden's going to be absolutely fantastic. I just don't know how it plays in terms of taking away votes from each other, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes sense. But in my opinion, when Harden is out there, I think it makes KD a better player. Harden's is a really good passer. He's a floor spacer as well. He takes up the attention of the defense. And he also gives KD a guide to pass you to up those assist numbers, right? So
yeah,
I think when it's just him and Harden out there, no problem. Like that's good for Kevin Durant. I think when Kyrie gets into the mix, I don't think any of them are bad players. I think they're fine teammates, but I think that's when it starts to get convoluted and a little bit tougher for him to get the numbers that he needs. But I really think with just those 2, KD and Harden, I think that amplifies his game. That's where I'm at.
No, I think it does too. I think Harden's so dang good. That's my thing. I'm not worried about Durant. Durant's going to be absolutely fantastic. But what if Harden averages like 27 and like 11 or something? Then do you still, you know what I mean? Or even 25 and 10 or 25 and 9. Like if Harden balls out, then can you still, if he's contributing to it, like if I'm a voter, Durant's going to average like 30, 31, 32, like 7 and maybe even 5 or 6. Like he's going to have a very, very good season. His defense, I think, has been overrated for a few years, but it's not like he's bad. He has some really, really, really good moments on defense. I think he has the potential to do it. I do worry about Harden's so good. They're both top 5-ish players. Some people have Harden way lower. I think it's so hard to rank those guys at the top. When you have 2 of those guys, it's going to be tough, which I've got Giannis number 1. And before the preseason, I had Giannis number 1. Then he had that game against Utah where he was hitting like turnaround fades. He was hitting pull up threes. He was just absolutely balling, showed off the new jumper. The free throw shot looks more streamlined. He quietly was in the lab, like between winning the finals and finals MVP, dropping 50 on one leg, essentially with the game he had last year to now, like, he went from this guy's probably the, because where my stance was as a huge LeBron James person for the past few years when he's gotten hurt, the narrative has been once LeBron starts playing again, you'll be reminded why he's the best, blah, blah, blah. LeBron had 34 and 11 in his first game back, knocked down like 4 threes. I didn't even care. I'm like, Giannis is head and shoulders. He's the best in the business right now. And I get that Durant is really, really, really good. I think that Steph, his impact offensively is historically good, one of the best all time. But Giannis, dude, where's the hole in his game now? Like, he's passing out of double teams quicker. He's making crisper passes. His defense is top 3 in the NBA. He's the most unstoppable force. He has maybe a shot now. Like, that's all-time great, top 10 potential, like maybe even higher than that if he can stack up the accolades. It's, you and I texted the same thing on Tuesday night, man. There couldn't be a better guy that all of this is happening to, with this story, with him, with the humility, with the confidence, with the growth. Not a lot of players can put up the numbers he did over the first 2 or 3 years of his career and then turn out to be like this. I mean, the arc has been insane. It's not like Luka where he stepped in year 1 and we knew he was going to be an all-time great. Giannis, man, I think he's going to win it. And I don't think that right now anyone could argue to make me think otherwise.
You said it perfectly, man. Giannis is just unbelievable. He didn't get it last year. Jokic was very deserving. You know, I'm a Jokic guy. Like, no question. Jokic, however you want to say it. But Giannis, look, he won Finals MVP, won the finals. I know you're not supposed to take last year into account, but voters will. He's just phenomenal. He's just unstoppable. And that's my pick too, by the way, if you can't tell. So that does it, man. That does it. Fun episodes, a lot longer than I anticipated. I think we're getting close to like an hour and a half.
127. So this was shorter than the first one. And I think the next one, we're going to get it down to, like, people say the sweet spot for a podcast is 20 to 30 minutes. I don't think we could do that if we tried. We could maybe do a half-hour one, but if we can get it to like 40-ish, I think that'd be the sweet spot. So thank you guys for rocking with us. Do we have another Easter egg in for those who tuned in?
Yeah, same concept. Actually, last week no one messaged us to tell us that they were still listening at the end of the podcast and wanted to be entered into a drawing to win some free merchandise from the store. So if that's you and you would like to tap in, get some merch for free, send us a message, let us know you're listening. You heard the message, and we'll enter you to win. Chances are, I mean, if you would have done it last week, you would have won. So chances are you win. But again, thanks for tuning in. One quick update here before we get out of here. I'm excited to watch the fourth quarter of the Nuggets game. The Nuggets have a 3-point lead at the start of the fourth. Sacramento is up on Portland by 10, 114 to 104. Interesting storyline for the Kings that we didn't talk about. We might talk about at some point. Marvin Bagley hasn't played a single minute in the game. Mm-hmm. I knew he wasn't going to start, but hasn't played a minute. And in his absence, Rashawn Holmes, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 9 for 9 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3. So
he's a good player.
He's great. He's a Bowling Green guy, by the way. Went to Bowling Green State University, just 40 miles north of me. Kings could be a fun team. One guy also, I know we just said this is going too long, but I could talk hoops all night. One guy we didn't mention for most improved player, and maybe it's because he was injured last year, but CJ McCollum, he's at 29 points, 12 of 20 from the field, 5 of 9 from 3 right now. And he is a good player and a guy that keeps getting better.
Yeah.
Just, again, checking out scores from around the league. Harrison Barnes has 31 points. Jeez, what a game.
What a weird opening slate. Like, what a cool one, but also what a weird one.
And the Kings will be an interesting team, but we'll get into it another time. So anyway, again, thank you so much for tuning in, for listening to episode 2 of Crashing the Association. Make sure you check us out on Twitter and on Instagram at Crashing Hoops. Follow us on YouTube, also Crashing Hoops. And we'll see you next time. Till then, stay right, stay real. God bless.